All right, so welcome to the React Native panel. Let me introduce myself. I am Sanket Sahu. I am one of the co-founders of GeekyAnts, and we do React and React Native meetups. We have been doing it for years now. But yeah, lovely panelists, and I love the talks. Those who gave a talk before this, probably quick introduction, and then we'll head to the questions straight away. Deep dive into React Native. Yeah, people already know you, but quick names and introduction maybe.
Hi,
I guess so.
I'm Hardik. I work as an app engineer at a travel company called Headout. We build apps for basically like booking tickets to worldwide tours and everything. And I'm a React Native contributor. I've contributed to a lot of Android native modules in the React core library, and and they have been live since like 0.77 version, as if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Would love to know like what exactly did you contribute?
So I worked on filling in a lot of like tech debt. So basically, when you have a look at the accessibility module, there were a lot of functions that they have the logic on the iOS side, but they didn't really have anything on the Android side. So they basically were returning like default false values. So they weren't really checking the system thing. So I worked on to basically bring the accessibility module on Android in parity with iOS. And apart from that, I rewrote the entire like the Android system info module from Java to Kotlin. So which basically just like handles all the communication with the actual React server and everything. So that I also worked on. Yeah.
Thanks for that. All right, moving on to Sandeep.
Hi all. So myself Sandeep, I work as a lead engineer for NoBroker. Presently, I am working like building and brownfield applications. So basically, we are trying to integrate React Native into our existing legacy system. So that is some kind of work what we are doing right now.
Interesting. Yeah, good to know, Sandeep. Yeah. Next, we have got Vina.
Hello. Yeah, this is Vina. So I'm a tech consultant. I do work for businesses and startups in order to improvise the application performance and development aspects. Yeah, more of. And also I'm currently working on one of my project regarding a SaaS system. It's a SaaS system for event management.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Yeah, Manish.
Hey, hi everyone. I think I already introduced myself, but I'll just reintroduce again. So my name is Manish. I'm basically a mobile architect. I've been there in industry for almost 15 years and started with BlackBerry, then moved into Android, then iOS, then Golang, Python. My tech has been changed heavily, and that's the biggest problem that I face when I go for an interview, right? If people ask me what is your specialization, I really don't know. Right, but that is what I have been.
Yeah, you scared the crowd with your talk little bit.
That is my job.
All right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about React Native, some core new developments that happen in React Native, and I have some sort of questions. We had a prior discussion about it just for full disclosure. But anyway, the first one is, and we can start from anyone, is the new architecture stable enough for production? And what are the biggest challenges developers are facing with this new transition?
I personally think for most of the part it is. Like at this point of time, someone has to start a brand new project from scratch. I think the React Native new architecture is stable enough. Plus, I think React Native team, they actually want to launch the version 1.0 this year as well. So they are like ironing out all the smaller issues and everything. And the performance improvements that it brings is actually very, like, at least theoretically, it's something that makes a lot of sense. Like they should have basically implemented the JSI like years ago, like idea-wise. So I think, in my opinion, it actually is. But for older architecture, like for our Headout app, we have been running an older architecture. We have a lot of different libraries that are still not compatible. So in that sense, it is still not like production ready. But for anything new, it actually, in my opinion, it is. Like that is my answer.
Okay, so if you have to upgrade, then it's a lot of pain. But for like greenfield,
even in our Headout production app, we don't have the new architecture enabled. We have like basically migrated to the version that is just before the new architecture. So we are working on like hopefully migrating to the new architecture by the end of this year. So that is the only pain point, that is migration with it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of tweets on X, people talking about the frustration around the upgrade process.
A lot of your app would stop compiling as soon as you will enable the new architecture flag. So that all the build issues, and I think that is very frustrating. Yeah.
Okay, so wait a little longer. I mean, probably 6 months.
Yeah. By the end of this year, hopefully they'll launch version 1.0. So that would be the defining point.
Okay, and that'll bring back React Native in its truest form, highly performant.
Yes. I mean, it's been 10 years, so at some point of time they need to ship the version 1.0.
Yeah. Otherwise, Lynx is gonna kill them. Anyway, we'll get to that. Yeah. Sandeep. Yeah.
I think it is stable enough from 0.78. The default make it as stable. But if you go from 0.74 to 0.76, one major issue which I observed is basically for 0.78, they have made the minimum API version to 27, minimum targeted API. So which is basically lot of even legacy system is working on 26. So if you directly switch to 0.78, there is high chances you will lose 10 to 15% of your active users. So that is the main point. Apart from that, if you enable the new architecture from below 0.78, maybe a lot of you have heard of real-time updates like code push and all. So for older, for new architecture up to I don't know what exactly the issue, but up to 0.77, they don't have a support for code push. Like they don't support custom JavaScript loading. They always load the index.bundle whatever you passed. So I raised a request for package update, but there are so many changes, so they are not agreed. So if you are going for new architecture with real-time updates, so you have to use 0.78 with the updated, with the minimum target API target of 27. So it won't support. So it won't support all the users running on the device having a API level 26 or below. So there is a chances 10 to 15. If still more than 10% of active devices in our company are on API level 26. So there is a high chances we can lose some customers. So that is only the point.
So this is a problem of the current consumer market.
Yeah, this is a problem
with a clash of how the technology is advancing. Okay, that's a big problem.
This is basically impact the business, obviously. Yes.
So if you are into consumer business, there is no way to, we should not upgrade.
B2C, we should apply, but we should wait for another 2-3 years once our count of, because it's not always the right count. Sometimes what happens is user may have changed the device, but still it will show the user is active, right? But gradually that count will decrease. So to move from 25 to 26, we took almost 2 to 3 years. So again, we have to wait.
That's a weird state to be in.
Basically, for B2C, we have to wait. We can't take the risk of updating something very directly.
Yeah, new insights. Yeah.
Actually, I definitely agree with what two of them said. With respect to migration, right? We come across a lot of these issues. With let's say if application is kind of small or medium size, it's okay. We can do it somehow because there will be no much dependencies. But when it comes to the application, which is kind of pretty much old, and also the feature functionalities are quite bit complex, and it is not recommended to go with new features, even though they are good at performance and all. When we say the new architecture, we got pretty much good updates when it comes to the Fabric UI that we have and the turbo modules which are there. And also, I would just recommend one suggestion for developers as well. When we see an update in the framework, we always say, okay, it is pretty much good to go or not. But as a developers, it is not just our responsibility to work in just consuming the framework. We also have to, support, contributing them. Most of whatever that we use are open source projects. So it's good if we can contribute to them. And when we say, when we see the latest updates, what we got, those are all when we get to know about turbo modules and all, they are based on C++ under the hood and JSI what we have. So we will be knowing most of them, and if we can contribute to them for which are not yet supported, so that would be a great add-on that I could say for the developers. Yeah.
And it's easier than ever, I think,
Yes.
with the use of Cursor
Yes.
and AI tools, you can actually easily write native codes.
Yes.
Okay, makes a lot of sense, yeah.
In my case, if I look at the problem statement, right, why migration is something which is really important. First of all, just from a practical perspective, I will have to buy first thing team bandwidth for it, right? It's a migration. So to convince the leadership team, right, I look at it this way that they are going to ask me for the real KPIs. That when you do a migration, what is the KPI which you are going to bring it, which we don't have at this point. So if I say first thing is performance, right, the talking between my JavaScript code with native has gone up, right? And if I give the KPI numbers, that also depend upon, for me, it's really, that depends upon how much do you communicate with your native code base. If the code base is very huge and you really communicate at a very heavy level, whereas JSON serializing and deserializing takes time, I will try to convince the leadership team that let's do this because it supports you with this number. That's the first thing, right? Second thing is memory. How many has got updated with it, right? And as well as your the rendering which were being happening asynchronously has been now in synchronous. So it depends upon the use case of your app. If your app is heavy rendered optimized, right? Say for example you are drawing a lot of frames, right? So at that point of time, yes, this helps. But if I look at my app saying that it's a typical client server app where I hit the data, get something on the UI, and it's a simple complexity, then migration is something which I will have to look at depending upon the bandwidth of a team and depending upon, because it's not giving me very huge difference, right? And to buy a team bandwidth is a very big challenge that we face. So that is how I look up to it.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of challenges. Like what I conclude from you guys is there are business issues, there are issues between the API, and that leads to consumer fragmentation, which is another problem. So the answer is probably no for next few months. That's what I can make out. Anyway, moving on. The next question is again around Fabric, which I think we have covered. So I'll move on to the third one. Have you folks used the new styling engines around React Native, mainly Native Wind, for example, or maybe there's another one which is similar to stylesheet.create. Have you guys used any of those? Yeah. React Native.
Basically, they are like not exactly the UI framework. They are actually used for accessibility kind of thing. So, how many of you think like building a, like simple drop-down box is not very simple. Like, if we just talk about the future, like I want to build some, I need to get some data and build a select options like a drop-down box. That is fine. But there are so many other things we need to take care of. In case of like keyboard navigations, if we accept, right? Keyboard navigation drop-down box is not just like user is clicking on some CTI, he's getting the list of options and he's selecting it. There are many other different accessibility things like as soon as the user press on the escape, the list should get closed automatically. It should have a keyboard navigations like up and down buttons. It should have a keyboard navigations like enter and all. So basically these all things are taken care of by kind of the this Tamang UI and also basically this accessibility framework. So we should focus only on writing our logic and the styling part. Rest of all the control for that particular element and everything is taken by that part. So for React Native, I don't think like it is might be of use, but I have honestly like I doesn't came across much use case. But for desktop application and all, where we have a keyboard navigations and all, obviously it will reduce the developer efforts to build the UI.
Okay, makes sense. Anybody else? Yeah, my question was around styling. Yeah, but component library and accessibility makes a lot of sense too. Yeah.
For us, we gave Native Wind a very brief look because we started developing an in-house design system and we wanted to have a proper design system and a styling system for it. But we chose to not use Native Wind because we have our design team and the development team, they work very closely. So there is a big issue of basically understanding the syntax as well. Like as developers, we can understand what styling system we are using and everything. But if we have to ask the other team where they need to learn something entirely new, wherein they might not even use it on a daily basis. So that became a big problem for us. So we gave Native Wind a try. It is overall it's pretty great, especially if you have experience with Tailwind. But we chose to basically stick with stylesheet.create just to have that particular that where we are working at a level where everyone is aware of what we have in the code base. So
Makes sense.
Yeah, I believe like when it comes to native wind, like if some developers coming from web background who knows Tailwind CSS, like that would be quite easy and it will be quite familiar for them. But I personally don't prefer to use Tailwind because all the CSS will be embedded in the single HTML itself. Like I don't prefer it. But yeah, when it comes to React, again like most of the time I would go to a normal style.create itself for again medium and small applications. But when it comes to a larger application, when I say larger application, where the complexity of the features will be high. In particular, let me take an example of one of the marketing application that I had worked. So there it was not just one application, it was multiple of them where it was a monorepo. So wherein we needed a kind of similarity across the code bases. It's not just for one project or one specific application that we are working. Like we needed a commonality across the web application of the marketing and the mobile application that we were trying to build actually. So yeah, in those kind of cases, like we would like to go with time queuing, what we said, and also a glue stack as well.
All right, Manish.
I mean, I don't have a very strong take on this. It's just something which I look in terms of reusability way, right? So if you're creating a library or a component which is being used across multiple platforms, the first sentence is always a library, right? So that I can reuse my code and it should tune themselves based on the platform on which we are running. So if that is the case, yes, library of something like anything which allows me to write less code, right? Which is easy to manage, easy to give, easy to raise PR, easy to get it approved from my other stakeholders. Yes, library makes sense. But in case if you are running just on a single platform where the complexity is not much, I go it with a vanilla JS style.
Makes a lot of sense. And my next question is very related. Do you share code on web as well with the native platform? If so, like how much?
We do. We make use of React Native Web for our confirmation screen. And along with that, whatever booking screen that we show, basically where we show the previous bookings and everything, we make use of React Native Web for it. This was a decision that we made around like 2.5 years ago. We were basically migrating from having separate Android and iOS code bases to a proper React Native application. And the team size was very small at that point of time. So just to quickly iterate and push systems out, we chose React Native Web. And even right now, our confirmation screen and everything is in there. But now that we have all the bandwidth and everything, we are actually now seeing the limitations of the system, because since React Native Web is optimized for like React Native Web and app, it doesn't really focus much on like either of those platforms. Like whatever functionality is being shipped by React Native, that is the only thing that we can make use of. So for example, on apps, let's say we want to make use of reanimated for animations. We can make use of it, but then web, we have to figure out some other solution for it. So all this like conditional coding and everything, at this point of time, it's better that we split off and basically have separate code bases. And that is actually after 2.5 years, that is what we are doing. We're basically splitting the code bases again, because now we have the bandwidth and we want to actually do a lot of detailed work and like put in all the effort into focusing on React Web separately and React Native in our app separately.
Makes a lot of sense. Pretty contradictory to Blue Sky app, for example, because they share like all the way. But I've seen a lot of companies do that. I mean, even Razorpay, for example, does a similar strategy. So makes sense.
For us, it's purely like a bandwidth thing. At that point of time, we didn't really have a lot of people to work on. I joined as an intern at Headout. I've been working full time for 2 years only.
Okay.
So then it was me and 2 other folks who were basically working on the app side, and we were migrating everything. So now we have like a much bigger team. So now we have many more people who can actually work on specific things. So now we are choosing to like move away from like the React Native Web framework and focus on like separate things.
Basically, like React Native does not replace the native developers, because even to write the native modules, to handle some stuff, we need the native team, right, for release process and all. Someone who is very familiar with the native architecture and all. So that is one thing. A lot of people are moving away from native to React Native. Not moving, but kind of migrating and all. But even then also, like, there is always a need of native developer. There are some specific folks who can do their job best. So that is a thing. Yep.
any more thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, this topic, like, maybe I can put on some light on this. See, with respect to business, right? So initially, it is a kind of a dream that it starts. It's not about technology or something. Yeah, I have some idea and I have to bring it to the world. That's what will be there in the mind of the owner, basically. So when the first see, okay, what is the quickest technology, quickest way we can go to market? So with respect to that, when we start when they start checking on, it will be like nowadays it's more of a React Native. So where a single code base where we can deploy it on both Android and iOS in more of that aspects. So they'll start it. And later point of time, it's not, okay. So initially this was not that matured. React Native was not that matured when first it was introduced. But now it is more matured, like I could say. Like we can just hold on to this. But some of the businesses will tend to change it to the native because of their own preferences, like maybe how the application is performing. Because even though React Native is kind of a framework, it can give all the features, but still there is some kind of a difference. You can feel the difference from actual native code to what we write in the React Native. But nowadays, I don't see there is a much difference unless it has been used for a specific features that I could say.
For us, right, when we did some R&D between native and React Native, right, there was a 3 months of project for which I did a R&D where I needed to get it approved from the leadership that whether React Native will work for our use case or pure Android code base, right? So for us, given that for any company, usually the first thing which really comes for leadership is the power that you drawn from the device. So if you are running on Android or iOS, right, we have to see what milliampere battery power we are drawing it. So when we ran the code on an Android, right, in a pure native, the power is undoubtedly far lesser than React Native. So if cost is not a criteria, people usually go for native. That is one reason. Second thing which I have seen is the capacity to talk to your hardware. Okay, any hardware that you want to talk, right, in a native BLE mode communication, native always works the fastest. Right, so that way, but yeah, React Native has become supremely well, if I say, from the day when we started, right, including the Stack Overflow support and on the net support, and the way it has gone up after bringing up JSI, right, it is immense fast and able to achieve from intermediate to complex apps, right, everything we are able to derive it with React Native.
Interesting, good insight. I think that question, keyboard avoiding view and all those things will keep going on, I think. I think with the new architecture, we'll see a lot of things solved. But yeah, it's all about ecosystem, I think, and very well concluded, all of you.
That will generate the job for developers.
So yeah, I have that question as well. But before we get into that, one last question on the technology side. So have you guys seen Links, which is the React Native of TikTok? A new framework, and I went through the documentation. I feel that it's very mature compared to the day when React Native was announced. It's much mature, and I think it's by one of the co-creators of React Native altogether. Just needed some thoughts if you guys have any idea.
I haven't experimented with it, but I also like going through the documentation. Like, I think Links has to be mature because it has the whole reference with React Native. Like when React Native was being created, they were doing it from scratch entirely, right? So with Links, I personally think it could be useful maybe in like some like X amount of years. But for now, like I would stick to React Native, like, and maybe like wait for a couple of years just to see if people are even adopting it as a platform, because big tech doing something is like has never really affected a lot of market things and everything.
Did you try Flutter at some point?
Yes.
I figured it out from your answer.
I didn't like Flutter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a different controversy. We'll use the networking session for that. Anyway, yeah. Any thoughts on Links, if you guys?
Like, I have not explored it much. I just went to the home page and all. But again, if we are building something from scratch, maybe we can try it. But
yeah,
migrating from the existing system,
yeah, it's a brand new thing. Yeah.
Problem, yeah.
No comments. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think the last question is around the job market, or maybe what's the future looks like for React Native. I mean, the future has definitely two parts: the state of React Native altogether, where it's headed, and obviously it'll have an answer for the job market and what React Native developer today should prepare for. Yeah, I think that's the question. Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's something which is very close to my heart, right? How does the software engineering at its whole has been changed, right? So guys, we have to first remember one thing, that we are software engineers first, then React Native or any mobile developers, right? We are software engineers. That's the reason we all joined IT, right? Not to get into especially front end or only back end, right? We are what we truly love, the core software engineering. Let it be kernel, let it be operating system, let it be deadlock, let it be DS. That's the whole reason we got into it, right? And platform will keep changing. It will keep evolving. React Native has become supremely good in this. So I will say we should not classify us ourselves as a front end or a React Native only specific. Right? The tech will change. I started my career with BlackBerry, Sanket. I don't know how many of you have used even BlackBerry phones, guys. Right? They are people. Okay. Right, so tech will change, but does when BlackBerry went off from the market, it did not mean we ended up losing our job, right? It did not happen. We as an Indian are highly far more flexible compared to any other breed that I see in the world, right? We are very flexible. We do what it takes to survive, guys, and tech has proven this again and again. Okay, we will do what it takes. It's just that the change in mindset that specific domain areas, what I will pick it, and I will continue to work on that. That is what I'm against it. Right? Tech will change. Today, you as a fresher or somebody who is very new to this industry, don't stick to yourself with one specific framework. Even if you're working on React Native, right, and your team member other is working on backend, go and see their code base, talk to him, understand what he do. That is where we evolve. More than machines, you always learn from humans, guys. That's a fact. I haven't learned much from machine. Machine gives me the logical sequence of blocks, but the humans give me far more bigger kick to actually sustain. Right? So focus on what you are, true software engineering skill set and communication, right? Which I normally say that you will not see any leader, right, who is there in the top management who does not have a good communication. That's a fact. So anybody, and given that we are in an era of so much of info, it has become far more evident to segregate the info, tell it in a proper way, and become a great articulator. It's not about mastering English. We all are masters in English, right? It's not something which is very tough. It's just that the way you articulate, break down the problem, convey it to the right stakeholders in a proper way, including the UML diagram, what it takes, right? Including creating the block diagrams, including the way, how do you break down your problems, get that mastery of that skill, and we all will have a long way to go.
Okay. So guys, can anyone guess like how many frameworks I worked so far? Anyone? So I would like to say, don't judge a book by its cover. Okay? Okay. So I have worked with React Native, Angular, and Ionic frameworks. Okay, so you guys might think now, like I might know half of the knowledge, like I'm not good at one framework. It's not like that. So when I see my journey, I say like I have started as a co-founder of a company. So I started with a problem, not with a framework. So at first I started learning Android, like we wanted to do it in a native again at that time. So I learned at that time it was Kotlin was newly upcoming at that time, and I indeed learned Swift also, but that doesn't fit our business use case, so we just scrapped out whatever that we have done, and later we started with Ionic and Angular. So if you could Google search right now, which is the most toughest front-end framework to learn, it is Angular. But you guys will believe it or not, that was my first language which I learned at that time without even knowing it. That was the toughest. I just wanted to get that business thing, business features, give them a life. That's all. So again, when it comes to framework, let me give you one secret sauce. See, any framework that are there, all of them have a similar building blocks under the hood. So if you want to learn the framework properly, like how it works, just learn one framework properly. Let me say that, okay? And on top of that, if you can see other frameworks comparatively, you will get to know a lot of things, what it is, what it does. So that's where you will start understanding the things more easily rather than saying, oh no, I don't know this framework. First see what is the basics, like what are the building blocks of that. When it comes to React and Angular or Vue, so finally those are component-based architecture, right? So how the files are being organized are different. And again, like how they work under the hood is different. Of course, it's a virtual DOM in React, and again, it's Angular, it's a real DOM. And of course, like now we got a lot of good updates in Angular as well. But again, like in the interview also, you guys will be getting the question like why you chose this framework, why specifically React or React Native, why? So these are not just an interview question, guys. Like if you're working on certain framework, you have to know what it is, what actually it solves. So just go and check out the code base which is there. And another thing is like you guys have to be very good at the software engineering skills, like OOPS concepts, design patterns. By the end of the day, these are the the things that makes your code much matured and performant. And of course, the DSA part of it, unknowingly we will use it. Under the hood, those are the things which are there actually. You will be using the libraries, directly you will be using the libraries, right? So under the hood, like DSA will be implemented. So go and check them. So if you learn in this pattern, right, no frameworks can shake you, no job market can shake you, and you can learn the things very easily. That's kind of attitude that I have. I'm a framework agnostic. And if tomorrow, if something new is coming, and if there is a situation that I need to learn and implement it, yes, I'm okay with that. So just have that kind of attitude, guys.
I think both of them covered very well. So only thing is never be framework dependent. You should understand the concept, like someone from front end presently, though you need to understand completely about JavaScript basics and all those things. Try to learn like how exactly, there are so many web APIs and all those things, but basically like core concepts of JavaScript should be very important because today is React. Few years back there was Angular 1, so many hype about two-way data binding and everything, right? Then we got React. So now we have a hype of virtual DOM and all. Might be some new frameworks, Next.js and everything will evolve, right? And apart from that, like don't stick to particular platform like platform designation. Like whenever you are developing something, you should be like in a position where you understand completely from development to deployment. You should know the complete knowledge about what exactly is going. You should sit with your peers, just have a casual chat and all, but you should parallelly you should do your development, right? Apart from that, because like a lot of interesting work is going on almost in all the organization. If I talk about AI and all, like very amazing work is going on, like a lot of audio transitions, video transitions, image transitions and all. So so basically we should understand the complete flow from development to deployment. That's the main part. Yep.
I think especially when it comes to app development, just like knowing how Android apps are made, like pure native Android apps and pure like native Swift apps, that would like help us become like more like of a complete like a better and a complete app developer. Like even with React Native, there has been like so many problems which we have ended up solving by writing like Android specific code and iOS specific code. So even in future, like even if there is going to be a new framework for like app development specifically, ultimately it's going to run on the Android and the iOS platform. So knowing like how the platform underneath is functioning and how we can build specific things targeting that platform, that would at least help us be like complete app developers when it comes to future proofing.
I think great answers, all of you. Yeah, I think we are towards the end of it. And thank you so much for all the valuable insights. Thank you so much for attending. Yeah.